This is All the King's Men. Joining me now remotely, former LA King and future LA King broadcaster Ray Ferraro. How are you doing today, Ray?
I'm doing good. Just actually a few days off. I'm at home and had a pretty busy sports watching weekend and just kind of getting back into the week here.
Do you get invested in the World Series? So for those who don't
Uh,
know, you played in the Little League World Series, so
yeah.
you are a baseball guy. Do
Oh, I
you
love
get
it.
heavily invested? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so who were you
Yeah.
rooting for then?
Seattle.
All right, but when it came down to LA and Toronto,
uh, you know what? Here's the fun part about it is I'm Canadian and I would love to see a Canadian team win.
mhm.
Um, Mookie Betts is one of my all-time favorite players.
Okay.
My oldest son, his middle name is James, which was after Jim Rice, my favorite player. Well, I was a Red Sox guy forever, and when the Red Sox traded Betts, I would like it as much as an adult could be really disappointed by a sporting thing. I was like, I can't believe that they let Mookie go. Like of all the guys, I don't know. He's just my favorite. So I wanted the Dodgers to do well too. So I got the benefit of being able to watch this and just watch it and not be disappointed or clouded by fandom. Like it was the most incredible series to watch. To think that four or five or six plays that were like literally inches away from going one way or the other decide a series. Like I don't remember many series like that.
So I kind
So
of
I
glossed.
I just
Sorry, go
loved
ahead.
it. I just loved it. I just loved it. I thought it was awesome.
I kind of glossed over it, but I mentioned that you played in the Little League World
Mhm.
Series. So, what point in your youth did you become a hockey player and stop being a baseball player?
Oh, pretty early. I mean, I love baseball. It's one of my. I mean, hockey was and is my passion. Baseball was hand in hand with it. Um, when I was 15, we our team won the provincial tournament, and we went to in Babe Ruth and went to the Pacific Northwest tournament. So there was Washington, a couple of teams from Oregon, a couple of teams from California, and at that time, um, I was pretty good, I guess, but I watched these kids, and I was like, yeah, I'm not that. Like those kids were, they were year round. They were what we were in hockey. We were year round players. They were year round players. They could throw way better than I could. I mean, I was fast, but like the polish of their game was unattainable. So I would say if I had any thought, it was in that tournament where we did pretty well, but I was like, yeah, that's a different world.
So, when you're watching the Major League Baseball World Series,
Yeah.
you've got you're a baseball fan. Obviously, you're a hockey fan. You're a former professional athlete. You're a current professional broadcaster. Are you watching the World Series from a broadcaster standpoint also, and sort of critiquing or learning or evaluating the job that the
Yeah.
telecast does?
I wish I wasn't, but I do. And I think everyone that broadcasts does the same thing. Oh, I can't believe he said that. Oh, that was really interesting. Um, Strategy. I love the discussion of strategy in advance of the play, not after the plays happened. One thing that I like about baseball, in many cases, is that you can understand what the announcer is talking about if you're not a diehard baseball fan. Like it's pretty straightforward when they talk about a slider breaking to the outside corner. Like you can see that. When I watch a football game, I often think the analyst is talking to 12 other analysts. Like yesterday, I hear Tom Brady talking about the two ball. I don't know what that is. I assume that means that's the second throw, right? Like he's looking at a receiver and one thing wasn't open, so they threw it to the other shoulder. I'm assuming that, but I don't know. And so I find that stuff too inside. Like I think John Smoltz is awesome because he talks about what the pitcher is thinking about. and what a hitter might be thinking about what is coming. In Canada, we also had the benefit of Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez calling the game. Now, Dan Shulman, I think, is the best. I think he's fabulous. But Buck was an old catcher. And so he's talking about what a catcher's thinking calling the game about, oh, look at the way they're moving the defense. Like both these guys had really cool points to make. And so as I'm watching, I'm listening to that stuff too. And I wish I could just watch it, but I just don't, I guess.
So then when you're broadcasting a hockey game, hockey audiences, I think, are separated pretty cleanly, whether you're talking to a
Yeah.
Canadian audience or an American audience. And then within those two, there are diehard hockey fans and there are casual hockey fans. And the transition from, and I don't mean to say casual like in an insulting way, like I met a fan the other day at the Kings Devils game, and it was his second game. And he was saying, I'm a new fan and I'm trying to learn. But there's a ton of stuff about hockey that if you don't know, you just don't know.
Right.
But if you do know it, it's sort of annoying when the announcers slow it down and start, if they're explaining what offside is every third play, it's like, all right, I know what that is.
Okay,
so
but so it's funny you bring up offside because that used to be the easiest rule in the book. And now we have these millimeter, quarter inch plays at the blue line because we go to review and to, and all that stuff. So I guess when I'm doing a game, I'll try and incorporate in the highlight the area and what the player specifically might be looking at to try and bridge that gap because it is a real thing. Here's the other thing I believe about doing analyst work in hockey. I think it's the toughest sport to do to start with because there are no breaks. You don't get the 25 seconds that football has between plays to set up the highlight, and then when it's going to start. So often, there might be a 6-minute stretch of no whistles, and I've got to be able to jump in and try and say something helpful to the broadcast. But if you're not careful while you're talking, there's a shot on net. Like it comes from nowhere. And I can't tell you how many times as I'm talking, I'm literally cheering for the goalie because I don't care what team he's on. Just don't let the puck go in the net because now I'm talking when I shouldn't be. And so that's why I think the game it's so hard because I think you have to serve both. I really do. Like if I'm just talking to the insider of hockey, like what's the good of that? That doesn't. I'm not in the growing the game business. I'm in the try to make people enjoy or try to help people enjoy and understand the game at a level that I can. Like I started in the NHL. I played my first game in 1984. Like I've seen a couple of things. And so my acquired knowledge and love of the sport, I want to convey that to the people that are watching. And so it does get tricky. Like I can if I'm talking about here's an example, because I had it in the last game, high stick that deflected the puck into the net. So they went to review. So in that review time, I quickly, or I think it was quickly, maybe it wasn't. I'm trying to explain why, even though the guy deflected it under his shoulder, why this is going to be no goal because his stick was above the crossbar. Like, I think it's a goofy rule. I think there should just be one high stick rule. It should be under the shoulder wherever it is. But then there's even just in that, there's so many complications. What if the guy gets knocked down and he's on his knees and he deflects the puck above his shoulder, but it's really only halfway up the net? So you can't get into the whole rule book, but I can try and say, oh, if it goes directly into the net, it's got to be deflected under the crossbar. If it bounces off somebody else, it can be off the player's shoulder. And that's just one example that happens, I don't know, dozens of times a season.
So I agree with you about speaking to both audiences. And so we're going to get into a couple stories that I know that you and I have talked about before on various recordings. But like I said, I'm talking to Armando, the guy I met who was at his second game and who's trying to learn more about
Cool.
the team,
Yeah,
more about the sport. So you played for the LA Kings once upon a
right.
time.
Yeah,
And when you started here, you wore number 20. And
right,
then the Kings reacquired Luc Robitaille, who you had played with previously for the New York
right.
Rangers. Both times you surrendered the number 20 to Luc Robitaille. So for fans who may not know this story, how does a player like Luc Robitaille get his number back from you?
Well, the first time was in New York. I signed as a free agent in New York, and so I was going to wear number 20. And then about 5 weeks later, I get a phone call from Neil Smith, who's the general manager, and he says, "Hey, we just made a trade for Luc Robitaille." And I was like, "Oh, awesome!" And he said, "Yeah, he wants to wear number 20." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." I mean, Luke's prominence to my prominence, sure, of course. So he says, "What number do you want to wear?" And I said, "Why? I'd like to wear 26." He said, "Well, Joey Kosher is going to come back, so he's going to still wear number 26." And I said, "Well, I got an idea. Why don't you just give me whatever number there is? Because, like, I'm not going to sit here and guess 53 different numbers." And so he said, "Well, 21's available." And I'm like, "Okay, 20." Like, that's how I ended up with 21. So then I get traded to LA. And when I think of it, I, I mean, times were so different. I should have never worn 20. I mean, that should have been put in mothballs
Sure.
because of Luke's, even if it wasn't retired at the time,
Yeah,
because
it
of his
was going to be.
prominence,
Yeah.
right? It should have just been put in the back. Anyway, I get there. They say, "What number do you want to wear?" I said, "Oh, I love to wear number 20." So now I'm number 20. So everything goes fine till Luke gets traded back to LA. And I'm like, I gave it to him once. I'm not going to give it to him again. That was my thought. I'm like, I'm going to barter something out of this. So we're just before training camp. We're having skates out at the Isoplex because that's where we were practicing there, and out in the valley. And we're on the bike, and Luke goes, "So," he always calls me little guy. He goes, "So, little guy, what are we going to do about the number?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm number 20, I guess." And he goes, "Come on." And so we end up working out this deal that I got a trip to Hawaii and a hotel stay for the number 20. But what I learned later was that I think he had buddies that helped do. I don't think it
Sure.
cost him anything, right?
Right.
And so I ended up with number 26 again, which the 26 number is that's what I started with in Hartford. And if people think you get to come to the NHL and pick your number, you're sadly mistaken. I got number 26, which I had never worn before at any level of any hockey in Hartford. I got called up from the minors. Um, I walked into the locker room and number 26 and my name was hanging there. And that's how I became number 26. And I was like so happy just to have an NHL number. I didn't really care what it was.
So you played for the Hartford Whalers,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to toss this out there. I saw the Whalers play at the Ottawa Civic Center in 1993, I think, against the Ottawa
Mm.
Senators. Just throwing that out there.
Wow,
But
was that a bad Senator team?
oh, it was a
Ooh,
it was a bad building too. The whole night
it
was,
was. Yes,
but
it
I was a kid,
was.
so I was thrilled.
Yeah.
Um, but so recently, the Nordiques, sorry, not the Nordiques, the Avalanche and the Hurricanes played a game where they wore the Whalers and Nordiques jerseys, and everybody got very excited about it. But as a former Whaler, what did you feel about two teams wearing those jerseys when those are not the jerseys of the cities they currently play in?
Well, Carolina, when they first did it, it bothered me a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
when the Whalers moved to Carolina, they did everything to distance themselves from the traditions of the Whalers and well, traditions, the legacy of the Whalers, the all-time scoring lists and all that sort of stuff. They made a clean break. When the Avalanche moved from, or when the Quebec Nordiques moved to Colorado, I thought they did a really good connection of those two cities. So I didn't necessarily mind it. When they played against each other, Now time has gone by, and I'm like, man, that just looked fantastic. I wonder if our jerseys and the games looked as good as they did back in the day,
They
because
didn't.
they did not, did they?
No,
Like
they did
the
not.
the colors are better, it's brighter, it's cleaner. Those jerseys looked sharp. And I've got my Whaler jersey down in the basement, and I guess I was looking for a little confirmation from you that they did look as good, but my Whaler jersey,
Sorry.
my Whaler jersey downstairs does not look like the one that was worn the other day. Like
I'm
they just don't look the
yeah.
same.
I'm convinced that two things have helped the spread of the National Hockey League more than anything else, and it's high def TV and the internet. Like I was
Yeah,
watching a clip of Wayne Gretzky the other day when he was on the Kings playing against the Jets, I think,
right.
and it looks terrible. And I was like, I can't believe and now I'm sure some of that is just the copying of tape over tape over tape, but like, yeah, high def helps a ton.
Well, I look at, I've got highlight tapes and things that people had made or teams had made for me. And it's like we're playing on the moon,
Hmm.
like it just looks so. My kids, my younger boys who are 18 and 50, and they look at this and they're like, well, that's terrible. Like it looks awful. And of course, the brightness and the clarity of the game on TV, we do know that it's a it's a tough sport. It's probably the toughest sport to to get a sense of what exactly is going on in the building. There's if you go watch, for people that are, again, that haven't been had a chance to go to games, when they go watch it, I think two things stand out to them immediately, and that's the size of the players and the speed, because it just does not translate on TV. When you see a guy that's 6'3" skating down the ice and pulling away from somebody, it's a remarkable thing to see. When I had an LA game earlier this year. I was in Dallas, and it was at a little break, and I was talking to Quinton Byfield, because I'm standing between the benches there.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not the tallest guy. He's standing on skates, but I'm like, the guys that were this big when I played, they were fighters. Like they were the tough guys. They weren't agile. They weren't skillful. And now you put this in a 6'5" body, and you're like the game, the evolution of the players and the speed of the players, when people see it live, it's impossible to translate that speed to TV. It's like a car race. I don't know if you've ever been to an auto race and a car drives by you at 200
Yep.
miles an hour. That's not what it looks like on TV.
Yeah, and yeah, I would go to the Long Beach Grand Prix a lot when I was a
Right.
kid. So you're talking about standing next to Quentin Byfield, and you mentioned that Luc Robitaille called you little guy,
Yeah.
but one of your nicknames when you played was the Big Ball of Hate. Um, so
Uh,
but you also played on a team with the Little Ball of Hate. So how did you
oh,
wind up being the Big Ball of Hate, and how did he wind up being the Little Ball of
I
Hate?
think because wherever Pat Verbeek was playing, the Anaheim GM, they called him that. Wherever I was playing, this is what they called. We got together. He's way angrier than I am. Way angry. We
Who's bigger
roomed.
though?
Oh, I'm taller for sure.
Okay.
I mean, this is not anything to be proud of. I don't think either of us. It's like it's a it's a pretty short tape measure you're using to get us our heights together. But we roomed together, and back in the day, of course, no internet. Um, there was one remote for the one TV, and every once in a while we'd wrestle for the remote, and zero chance. He was undefeated. Like you could not. When he set his mind to it, it was over, finished. So strong. And so we ended up playing together a little bit in Hartford and then back with the Rangers. And um, this may be a little goofy, but he's probably not that far. If you look at the players I call accumulators, numbers wise, he's probably not that far from a consideration into the Hall of Fame. He's got 3,000 penalty minutes. He's got
Mhm.
500 goals. Like, that's pretty good. I know he was never an all-star for, like that. I think that stuff matters. Um, but Beaker he was a heck of a player, and man, was he tough. He was rock hard tough.
who's the highest profile accumulator?
Maybe Dave Andrechuk.
Okay.
Uh,
Would Mike Gartner be in that category? No
yep,
disrespect to Mike
sure.
Gartner. Okay.
No, but this is the thing. Like Pierre Turgeon, Dave Andrechuk, Mike Gartner. You don't just get to keep coming to the league and playing. Like
Mm-hmm.
eventually, if you don't produce, they find somebody else. These guys were able to play for such a long time that they just accumulated mountains of goals and points.
Mm-hmm.
And if you if you look at these numbers, then they're amongst the best in the game. Like they should be there. But we never game planned for Dave Andrechuk. Like we
Right.
didn't build a game. So when I was a little younger, I guess and I still do, I have in my head the Hall of Fame should be for the great, not for the very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are players that are very, very, very good players, but not great players, and they're in. And once they're in, then that becomes the new standard, because you definitely have to look at, well, if he's in, why isn't he? Like Alex McGillney should have been in my opinion, years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We used to game plan against Alex McGillney. Basically, don't let that bloody guy get the puck, because
Right.
he was just so great. But for whatever the reasons were, and the voting is really strenuous and really tight. Like you need, I think, 15 of the 18 votes to get in. It's pretty easy for the vote to splinter if there's 6 or 7 really good players this year, or on any year. This year, of course, I'm just looking forward to Joe Thornton's speech and wherever he's going to meander through. He's just a character of the game.
So one of the reasons I love talking to you, Ray, is that you're not shy and you're outspoken. And everybody who's watched me at all knows that I'm a huge fan of Ted Lasso. And last night I was trying to remember everything I knew about Ray Ferraro. And this story that I remembered hearing came up in my memory, and it's Sean Pronger tells it in his book. And there's this scene in Ted Lasso where Ted Lasso has taken over the club, and he's getting anonymous suggestions from the teammates about what needs to be fixed for the club.
Okay.
And they're in the bar and they're reading the anonymous notes, and one of them is signed by a player, and the joke is it's an insult to him. And the assistant coach says, well, it's a good thing these are anonymous. And the coach says, no, Roy signed this one. And I was like, that sounds almost identical to a story I've heard about Ray Ferraro. So Sean Pronger gets traded to the LA Kings. There's a players only meeting, which I will ask you about in a second. And he goes to the captain, Rob Blake, and Rob Blake says, we're getting opinions from all the players. What's wrong with our team right now? And Sean Pronger says, I just got here. I don't want to say what I think is wrong with the team. It's not my place. It's not right for me to say. And Rob Blake says, don't worry about it. It's anonymous. Just write something down. We're going to read them out of a hat. Don't worry about it. They call the meeting. They start reading the notes out loud to the whole team. Your note comes up, and I won't say what says it on the note, but you signed it at the bottom, and you called out a teammate, and you said, player X is what's wrong with this team, Ray Ferraro, and you signed it.
Yeah, I missed the part that it should have been anonymous.
Oh,
I think.
all right. Okay.
I mean, it was a long time ago, but basically, we were in a skid. It was pretty early in the season. I want to say maybe not much further along than this, like than November.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the story's out there. So like Steve Duchesne had signed as a free agent, coming back to LA. Now, the people today wouldn't know, but Steve was a terrific puck mover. I think he would have excelled in today's game, because he could run a power play, he could shoot the puck, he could pass it. For whatever reason, when he came back to LA, it didn't go very well. And Larry Robinson was the coach. And Larry I don't really recall, but he must not have been playing him in the way that Steve thought that he was going to play. And he was quite vocal about it. And he was a prominent free agent for a team that was just trying to start to rebuild, and we weren't getting prominent free agents. Like, that wasn't happening. And it just mushroomed, and it became more than just about Steve. And so my thought was, this is the problem. If he doesn't want to be here, then we probably, like, we can't do anything. We're the players. They should probably trade him and say, okay, it just didn't work. Well, eventually they traded him. I think he won a Stanley Cup in Dallas. Um, like, it's not like he couldn't play, but he could not play there at that time. And so that was my opinion. I guess it probably would have gone a little smoother had, Prong's not written it in the book, but the guy that wrote the book with him, Dan Murphy's a close friend of mine. He lives about 5 blocks from here. And he called me and he said, hey, Prong's just told me this story. Do you mind if I put it in the book? And at the time it was, I don't know, 20 years old. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure Steve's gotten over it by now. And, and so that's it.
Has he gotten over it?
I don't know. I never see him.
Oh, all right.
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. I thought he was a really good guy, and it's not like I had any contact, or it was not like we were friends or hung out or anything. They said, what's wrong with the team? And I guess I could have written the situation around Steve and his signing and the way he's not happy is mushrooming and becoming a problem, but the piece of paper was small, so I just sure. I wrote it in a more succinct fashion.
Well, I've known that story for a long time. Like I said, when I saw that bit on Ted Lasso, I was just like, that has to be based on that story.
I don't know. Nobody's mentioned it, but it does sound pretty familiar.
Get a trip to Hawaii for that.
That would be nice.
You mentioned that you were traded to LA. I believe that's one of the best trades in franchise history. It was Ray Ferraro, Ian LaPerriere, Matthias Nordstrom, and Nathan Lafayette for Jari Kurri, Marty McSorley, and Shane Churla. Do you remember that trade?
Oh, yeah, very much. I had signed in July of 95 with the Rangers. I signed a 4-year deal. And in March, I had 25 goals, and I got traded. And Neil Smith said at the time, the general manager, when they were doing their media stuff, he said, we're worried he's not big enough to play in the playoffs. And, I was pissed. I mean, like, sure. So I said, I was like, I was the same size in July that I am now. Right. And basically what the deal was, and I get it. I mean, I get it from retrospect and being the age I am, and I don't care anymore, but they wanted to bring back the band that won the Stanley Cups in Edmonton. Like, of course, Mark Messier trusted Marty McSorley and Jari Kurri, and they added toughness in Shane Churla. Of course, like, I understand that. They couldn't wait at that time for Matty Nordstrom to develop into what he was going to be. Right. But we could all see it. I mean, if you watch Matty Nordstrom play 3 times, you're like, this guy will lay his body on the line every time. Like, that made it a bad trade by itself. Lappy was a blood and guts penalty killer, play his heart out. I was kind of the older guy that they were hoping was going to be a bridge to some of their younger guys, which of course came later, like Glenn Murray and Joseph Stumple and the guys that I played with a little bit, but they were just coming into their own. Those were other trades that they made. So the trade was not anything I was expecting, nor too thrilled about. But again, from hindsight, it was an amazing thing for me. I made lifelong friends in my time in LA. Eventually I met Cammie, and we've been married 21 years and have 2 boys and 3 grandkids, and like none of that would have happened if I wouldn't have got traded. So the disappointment wore off. It set me on a course in my career to, I just played a rebuild and expansion the rest of my career, which I wouldn't have chosen, but I got to stay in the league. I got to keep playing. I got to live in an amazing place, And as it turned out, I loved it.
Now, this bit of trivia comes from Jared Shaffrin, who works for the LA Kings. Do you know what you and Henri Richard have in common?
Uh, I wish I would have won 11 Stanley Cups.
Sure, don't we all?
Yeah.
You and Henri Richard are currently tied for 100th in games played all time in the NHL.
Oh, I'm still hanging in there, am I? Because
You
I got to
are.
tell you, it's been a tough couple of years. These guys that are getting to goal 409, they're coming fast and furious. And I think when I retired, I was 75th or something like that, like in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you don't get to make a comeback and add to the total anymore. I'm at 100. How long will we stay? I wonder. Like, there's got to be
I think
somebody
Nick
close.
Foligno's the closest one. But I looked this up. When you retired, you were 36th overall in games played.
36th.
Yeah. Since you've retired, though, like just in the space of guys that started after you retired, never mind the guys that were close to you when you retired that passed you, but just in the years since you retired, 20 guys have played more than 1,258 games in those 20 years, including Dustin Brown and Anze Kopitar for the LA Kings.
There's so much that goes, into all of that. Like, of course, the schedule length helps the players. Certainly even in my time when we were playing 80 games, the ones in front of me were, for many, many, many years till the late 60s, were playing 60 games. So every year you're healthy, you pick up 20 games. You've got to be healthy. You have to be productive. Like I said earlier, you don't just get to keep coming around the rink. Like eventually, if you don't produce, they go get somebody else. So as I looked back at that, I was quite proud of the games played, because it meant I came to work and I did my job enough times that they asked me back 1,258 times. And so I think it's a stat that maybe you kind of look at with the guys that are at crazy numbers and you go, oh, like Brent Burns just played his 1,500th game. He's played like 950 in a row. And, which is incredible. Like, I don't know, how many games has Kopi missed in his career? Like, not very many.
Less than 3 dozen, I would be willing to bet.
Like, crazy durability for him. Like, Dustin Brown playing the way he did to play. I mean, he was, he's built like a bowling ball, but like I recall him having one really bad injury. Now there might have been more, but man, they were durable. Like to get through the punishment of a season that many times is really, really pretty remarkable. Also pretty lucky, right? For anybody that plays that long, you got to be lucky too.
Well, I'm pretty sure Drew Doughty has 1,220 at the time of this recording, so he should be catching you.
Oh, he's going to play
soon.
for another. He's going to play
Yeah.
for years. I mean, like, does it look like any part of him thinks of life without hockey? Like, he just loves it. You can just see it. He just loves it.
Well, listen, Ray, we appreciate all the time you were spent as a player in LA. We appreciate all the time that you'll spend here as a broadcaster. Appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us, Ray.
I look forward to getting on the games. My first couple will be in Toronto on the 13th and in Ottawa on the 15th. And so I look forward to joining the broadcasts and, doing a few games with the Kings this year. This will be fun.